Welcome into the 49ers Report by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. No matter where you're watching or how you're watching, thanks so much for making the 49ers Report a part of your day. On today's show, we're getting to the latest rumors around Deebo Samuel. Also, in a few minutes, I'm going to explain why I think Treylon Burks out of Arkansas would be the perfect Deebo Samuel replacement if the Niners move up with a Deebo Samuel trade into the first round. But first, let's set the foundation, get you caught up on everything going down on the Deebo Samuel front. His status of whether or not he's going to get traded prior to Thursday's NFL draft really remains one of the biggest storylines in the NFL going into Thursday. A lot of conflicting reports as to if he's going to get traded or not. John Lynch did speak with the media for the first time since Deebo Samuel made that trade request public, and he said, you know what? Deebo Samuel's such a great football player. We got him at the top half of the second round a couple of years ago. I cannot imagine us as an organization moving forward without Deebo Samuel. Now, Tim Kawakami has been covering Bay Area athletics for a really long time, and he thinks that a trade leading into the NFL draft, which comes your way on Thursday, could go down with one of the most valuable offensive players in the National Football League in Deebo. Kawakami saying this: I think Deebo Samuel knew exactly how uncomfortable he'd make things for John Lynch, Kyle Shanahan, and Jed York heading into the draft by issuing his public trade request last week, and I think Deebo is closer now to getting his trade wish than he was last week, largely because of the raw discomfort he's causing within this organization. And with this organization, the Niners are a blue blood franchise. They have 5 Super Bowl championships, second in the NFL, behind the Pittsburgh Steelers as well as the New England Patriots. They like when their business is moving swimmingly. They don't like when there are distractions. And right now, there are some distractions in the locker room within this front office because of this Deebo Samuel trade request being made public. And if the 49ers get blown away by an offer, I do think they'll listen, because they wouldn't be doing their due diligence if they wouldn't listen to some of these offers. And how could you not? Let's say the New York Jets offer you 4, maybe even 10. Maybe they offer you number 10 and one of their high-end second-round picks, and you think that Deebo Samuel, no matter what, is not going to return to the Bay. You can replace him and get a premium player with those draft assets, maybe get some future picks involved as well if you don't get some of those other aforementioned picks, and that makes up for not having first-round picks until 2024 because of that trade up for Trey Lance last year. So I think the Niners are going to listen. Are they going to trade Deebo? Who the hell knows? It remains one of the biggest mysteries going into night 1 of the 2022 NFL Draft. Before we get to more on the Deebo Samuel front, what John Lynch had to say, as well as Daniel Jeremiah thinking that Deebo is going to get moved, I want to hear from you in the comments section. Will Deebo get traded before the draft? Solve this mystery for us like Carmen Sandiego. Why for yes and for no? Get those votes into the comment section right now. Now, on Monday, John Lynch did talk about all of these Deebo rumors for the first time since that trade request was reported on by Jeff Darlington, and I thought it was funny. He started his press conference by saying, we're not going to talk about Deebo. It doesn't really benefit us as an organization to discuss these things in a public eye. And then, of course, he was asked about Deebo and had to at least explain what's going on and relay some of his feelings about number 19. I can't ever imagine wanting to move on from Deebo. Lynch said, he's just too good of a player. To me, has just been a game-changing player for our franchise, has Deebo. I've told him this. We've got nothing but love for him and nothing but appreciation for what he's brought. You just don't let guys like that walk. I can't envision a scenario where we could trade him. Now, does Deebo even want to be a part of this organization? That's really a big question that the Niners have to find an answer for. We've seen so many contractual disagreements between players and franchises and front offices before. It happened with Jerry Rice back in the day. There was a little bit of a contentious relationship between Jerry Rice and San Francisco, but they were able to come to an agreement at the time of a contract worth like $30+ million, which is crazy to think about considering how much the salary cap has grown. But if the answer to Deebo wanting to be a part of this team is no, is the awkwardness worth it? Is fracturing the locker room worth it? Is having this lingering over your organization worth it? And would it be smart to just cut bait and trade Deebo Samuel away? Now, of course, it wouldn't happen without a haul of a package coming back to the Bay with either player capital or draft capital, but these are the conversations and these are the questions that are being asked and talked about within this front office right now. Now, is there a good chance that Deebo gets dealt before the draft? And could Treylon Burks out of Arkansas be the perfect Deebo Samuel replacement? Going to talk about that coming up right around the corner. But first, another question for the audience. Who do you think is to blame for this Deebo fallout and this relationship falling apart to the point where can it even continue any longer moving into the future? Type D for Deebo is to blame. 49 for the 49ers. Once again, sound off in the comment section. Now, there was a report that there is a good chance that Deebo does in fact get traded with the NFL draft coming up right around the corner. This coming from Daniel Jeremiah. He said, quote, "The people I talked to this morning on Tuesday said there's a good chance Deebo does get traded." It changed over the last 2 days from I don't think the Niners would ever do it to I think there's a good chance they trade him. A lot of you watching right now might say, well, John Lynch said, I can't imagine moving forward as an organization without number 19 on the offensive side of the ball wreaking havoc on opposing defenses. Have coaches ever lied before? Have general managers ever lied before? Of course they have. You can't really rely on the truth always coming out in these situations because if you are to pass along the truth, sometimes it damages your value and it damages your leverage in some of these trade talks. Now, I do think it makes sense to deal Deebo before the draft. That way, you know which players in the draft to pinpoint, and whether it be at wide receiver, edge rusher, offensive line, right tackle, center, whatever it may be, you have to have your big board in order with some of the players that you would want to go after if you trade Deebo for some draft capital. Whether the Niners re-sign him or whether a team acquires Deebo, he's going to ask for something in the neighborhood of these contracts on your screen because this is the list of the top 5 highest paid wide receivers per year in the National Football League. Tyreek Hill, upon signing his new contract, $30 million average annual value. That set the record for the most money per year paid to a wide receiver. Devontae Adams, right on his heels, making 28, followed by DeAndre Hopkins, Stephon Diggs, and DJ Moore. Now, if you ask me what I think happened, I think the Niners went to Deebo and his agent, and they lowballed him. They offered him less than $20 million, and because of that, he's like, you know what? If you guys don't value what I bring to the table, if you guys didn't see what I was able to do on the football field, where anytime we needed a big play or a splash play or our offense needed to make something happen, I bailed y'all out, whether I took it to the crib as a wide receiver or a running back. And you're offering me less than 20, that's disrespectful. And if the Niners did offer him less than 20, that is disrespectful. And if that is the case, I can see why this relationship has soured so quickly. Next up on the show, I'm going to explain why I think Treylon Burks, by watching the game film and when you look at the numbers, is the next Deebo Samuel and the perfect Deebo Samuel replacement. Stay tuned for that. I'm excited to dive into it. But first, if you're watching us on YouTube, that's great. For those of you watching us on Rumble, that is awesome too. We continue to grow to the platforms that you as the viewers use. On the Rumble side of things, a couple of really cool features. You can close out the app, but still listen to the 49ers Report podcast style. That's a feature that you have to pay for on YouTube, but also on Rumble. Sometimes we just put videos on there that you can't find on YouTube. So you should just follow and subscribe to us both on YouTube as well as on Rumble. Just plug in that link at the bottom of your screen, rumble.com/49ers TV. We go live there, free and exclusive content, and I can even curse without getting fired on the Rumble app, rumble.com/49ers TV. That link's available in the comment section and the description of this video. If the 49ers trade back into the first round of the NFL draft on Thursday, I think they have to at least consider targeting Treylon Burks, who I think is going to be the next Deebo Samuel. This guy is an absolute stud. He'd be a great fit in Kyle Shanahan's offense and a cheaper fit because he's not going to demand between $20 and $30 million, at least for the next couple of years while he's under that rookie contract. Has excellent size, primarily plays inside as a slot receiver, but can also line up outside. He is so dynamic after the catch and physical with the ball in his hands. And he's going to remind a lot of people in that way of Deebo Samuel because this dude is a bulldog. He ain't afraid to run your ass over. And for me, When I evaluate some of these wide receiver prospects, I like them all, honestly. I don't think you can miss on any of these wide receiver prospects in the first round, whether it be Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Drake London, Jamison Williams, Treylon Burks. But because of his ability, his physicality, his positional versatility as well, Treylon Burks might be my favorite wideout in this class. You take a look at what he did in 2021 with a subpar quarterback, 66 catches, 1,100 yards, 11 touchdowns, average yards per catch just shy of 17. Wasn't all he did. He also has special teams ability as a returner considering that size. 14 totes, 112 yards, 1 touchdown on the ground, average yards per carry, 8 even. Deebo Samuel hovered around 7, and of course he had more carries in Kyle Shanahan's offense, but the point here being is that Treylon Burks can do a lot of the same things and bring that versatile element to the football field that Deebo Samuel brought, and he would be so much cheaper. Our scouting report on Treylon Burks, good combination of size and speed, about 6'2", 225, deadly after the catch, moves really well for a player of his size. I think his pull-away ability after the catch might be the most fascinating element to his game. Average testing at the NFL Scouting Combine, he ran about a 4.55 40 and poor agility times, but he really pops on tape. Now, there are some questions about Treylon Burks. Might have gained some weight during the offseason. Maybe that contributed to him running a slow 40 time, but Treylon Burks is a special player who can run, jump, run you over the 4.55 40. I'm not really too concerned about it at 6'2", 225 because he plays faster on tape. And the fact that he can line up in the slot, line up at wide receiver, he can return some kicks, line up as a running back, take some carries on some jet sweeps, run some reverses. If you're looking for a Deebo Samuel replacement, Treylon Burks is that guy. And if the San Francisco 49ers trade back into the first round after trading away Deebo Samuel, it'd be wise, it'd be smart for them to target Treylon Burks out of Arkansas because I think he's the ideal Deebo Samuel replacement, and I think he could really flourish in Kyle Shanahan's offense. Let me ask you this question before we hop on out of here on this segment. Should the Niners draft Treylon Burks? Hopefully I convinced you because I love this dude. Shout out to producer Trace who went to Arkansas. Woo pig. Big Treylon Burks guy. Type D for draft, type P for pass. Let me know your feelings about Treylon Burks. I'm high on him. If you disagree with me, it's all cool because we're all about that open discourse right here on the channel.